relationship management for hospitals. Afsal is passionate about creating new products and building execution-ready teams. He is also an angel investor, and his investments include Baby Gogo, Hansel.io, and Picor. Today's session is co-hosted by College of Engineering Pattanapuram IEDC. A special thanks to the IEDC teammates and the Nodal Officer, Sri Sir. Inspire2Innovate is conceived to engage the student community during this lockdown period. Any interested individual can attend the session. Every day will be a 40 minutes knowledge-packed interactive session where key speakers, including startup founders, academicians, and industry leaders, will share their knowledge and experience. The webinar scheduled today will be a 40-minute session. You can type your questions in the Q&A on the left side of the screen. Also, those who are interested in asking questions directly, they can use raise hand feature by clicking on the button. We'll allow you to talk. I would request each of you to take this as an opportunity to connect with him and make the most out of this session. I would like to formally invite Afsal to take over the session. Thank you. Afsal, hello.
Thanks for the introduction, Srikuti. Let me thank KSUM for giving me an opportunity to share my entrepreneurial journey. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Afsal, please go ahead.
A warm good evening to everyone. Let me give a brief introduction about myself, and then let me get into my entrepreneurial journey. I'm basically from Kerala, Calicut, where my parents are doctors at Calicut Medical College. I've done my engineering at Government College of Engineering, Kannur, and post that I did an MBA from IIM Lucknow. I've worked in the corporate world, Hindustan Lever, for about 6 years, after which I decided to become an entrepreneur in 2010. And the last 10 years, I have been an entrepreneur working in various fields, cutting across hyperlocal e-commerce, e-grocery, as well as health tech, which is my last venture. So I'd like to take you through my entrepreneurial journey with the presentation. Hope the presentation is visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Sure, thank you. I believe most of the audience would be students, and hence I had looked at presenting it from their viewpoint. If there are others in the audience, I would like to hear from them also if they have any startup specific questions. I would like to look at entrepreneurial journey as a ride where it goes through various crests and troughs. That has been the way it has been for me also in the last 10 years. I didn't start my career saying that I want to do a business, but while working at Hindustan Lever, I got to see how that company operates across various categories as well as touches the lives of Indians across various products. So that gave me an opportunity to understand that there is much more than what you can do if you're working in a corporate job. So I was looking at various opportunities on how to actually set up a business, and in the last few years of my job is when I decided that it's time to quit. So before quitting, I decided to make sure that I'm able to get a suitable alliance, because at that time, startup or being an entrepreneur was not fashion way back in 2010. So told my parents that I'm planning to quit, and they immediately told me that you should get married and then only you should look at starting your own business. So that was the kind of start doing startups was taboo in those periods. So from that time, over the last 10 years, things have improved a lot, and I would like to pick up certain aspects of my entrepreneurial journey across these two startups, Delyver as well as BestDoc, and then share. I believe we can have the questions at the end, or is it an interactive question session? How do you like to have it?
We can first finish the presentation and then go ahead with the Q&A.
Sure. Yes. Uh, so from an student's point of view or a perspective, um, when we are doing education, it's just going through all the basic principles and trying to understand how it can be applied in various fields. So when I was doing engineering, I did electronics and communication, and I wasn't sure how I would be able to apply most of the principles as well as the theories which I've learned at engineering. And at that particular time, this was way back in 2002, that was when one of the first recessions which our generation is aware of hit the industry, which was the dot-com burst in 2001 2. And because of that, most of my seniors, as well as our batch, couldn't get placements. And that was when we realized that it's better to actually pursue higher studies as an opportunity to look at furthering your job prospects. And I went for doing an MBA. And after that, also, I realized that what you study at college is not what you would actually see at work. So for me, MBA was only a way to understand how certain things work in functions like, say, marketing, supply chain, or finance. But a real experience, it only helps you, any particular educational degree helps you get inside a company and understand what's happening. But only when you are doing on the job work, you get to know how you can actually improve at that particular aspect. And that's what I also learned when I was at my first job at Hindustan Liver. Another good thing was that this company is spread across the country. So working in that company was similar to doing Bharat Darshan. I worked in Pondicherry, Uttaranchal, uh, Bangalore, various parts of country across various geographies, which gave me a very good exposure on how India works. And that was the reason why I thought that I should be able to do something in the e-commerce space um, down the line. So yes, a degree is just going to help you open a door, but what you do inside a company is how it actually helps you move forward. And the real world is almost similar to this. This is actually an uh, picture from Bangalore roads. This is exactly how you would experience life when you get inside a company. It's not textbook approach where you'll have to actually handle different kinds of people when you're on the job, including the cows which you would see on the street. So moving forward, how to write the future, particularly in this particular scenario of COVID-19, how to be prepared for looking at the job market and how to actually build a startup if you are looking at doing that in this particular time. I would just take you through that. So I would just touch upon the first startup, which was Delyver, which I co-founded with two of my batchmates from IIM in 2010 in Bangalore. We were trying to connect retail stores across multiple categories like restaurants, cake shops, florists, grocery stores with customers in the same neighborhood. So we started in a neighborhood called Whitefield in Bangalore, and then we expanded all over Bangalore over the next 5 years. We were trying to connect them, the customers, with the shops through an app, and we also had a rider app which was used for uh, sharing these orders with the delivery riders and then taking those orders and getting them delivered. So we did this way back in 2010 before even the companies like Swiggy, Dunzo, or a Big Basket started. So we consider ourselves as one of the pioneers in this field, but also fact that it, even if you're one of the first movers, it doesn't guarantee. You need to actually be fast mover as well. So I'll take you through those learning as well. We move forward. The second startup I did in 2018 after moving out of Big Basket post acquisition of Delyver. And this startup is based out of Kerala in Cochin Info Park. We work with 100 plus hospitals in improving the patient experience. We look at various touch points where the patient has to go through their journey when they come to a hospital, and then try to uh, improve those touch points by automating and digitizing as well as helping them move faster. So the corollary effect is the hospitals are able to get things done much faster without having to invest in a lot of costs. So this is my current startup, which is completely built in Kerala. And for this reason, I had moved back from Bangalore to Kerala to do this as well. Yeah. So the first aspect of any startup is the idea. And most of us, when we were looking to do a startup, were looking for a killer idea, an idea which is similar to Facebook. That was the time when we were looking at starting up, and how it can be done without having to do a lot of work. But we realized that when we started Delyver, we realized that it is not the idea which matters. It's about how you do that particular idea, how do you execute. So the power of an idea lies in flawless execution, and that's one thing which we realized when we were doing Delyver. And it also mattered that if you're able to put across your idea to your user in less than a minute without having to use jargons or keywords, then it means that that idea has hit the user, and if they're ready to pay for it, then it makes business sense. So this is how we were looking at what we were doing. We were not doing anything really different. We were just trying to actually look at how can we deliver products from the retail stores in a better way. How can consumers place those orders also in a better way? And that's the same approach which you're doing at BestDoc also, in terms of taking up the existing business and trying to digitize as well as automate it to improve the experience of the users around it. The next part of any startup is the team. And as you see in the visual, it's so important that you need to identify people who are ready to be there with you throughout the journey. So most of us, when we are studying, we would have had close friends and with whom we would have spent a lot of time. And we would always look at doing something together with them outside studies. So whenever you come up with a business idea, you will first look at your friends who can actually be your co-founders. And it's also important that you know them really well, because startups are very intensive. They go through very rough phases. Most of the startups, 90% of the startups fold in the first 3 years. So if you're able to have a very good working relationship with your co-founders, then that is also one of the reasons why you would be able to cross the 3-year period. And you need to have very good chemistry as well as understanding of the co-founders' interests as well as dislikes, so that you are not stepping on each other's foot. So in our case, the first one was where we were classmates at IIM, and we were working in different companies. Each one of us had mutually exclusive skill sets. I was good in IT and operations. My co-founders were good in business development as well as marketing, and then one was very good in finances and co-founders. So it was very easy for us to make sure that we divide the roles and then do things in a coordinated way. In BestDoc also, my co-founder is a techie, and it helps me to make sure that we are able to actually build a very good team between two of us. And it's very important during rough times like this also to make sure that you're able to actually support your co-founders and move forward. So one interesting aspect with Delyver was that majority of our team were the bikers whom you would see on the picture. So when we started this company, we started as delivery boys. So this was one thing which we said that we will not shy away from doing. So it helped us also get into the shoes of the delivery boys. We were doing deliveries ourselves. We were picking calls from the customers, then going and standing in front of the stores to pick up the orders, and then deliver these orders to the customers. So it helped us understand a lot of psyche of how a delivery boy thinks, behaves, and how they are getting treated by the various constituents, be it a shopkeeper or a customer. So while building the company over the next 5 years, we could actually do a lot of things which help them do their job better, and also make sure that they are able to work with dignity as well as pride. So that is one thing which we were able to do well, and hence our team was in the range of about 400 people in 5 years. And post that, when Big Basket acquired, we were also able to make sure that all of them got uh, the jobs in Big Basket as well. And we were able to grow that team from that 400 to 2,500 in 2 years. So it's very important to make sure that you take care of the team, starting from the person who is facing the customer to the person who is going to collect the money for you. Even in BestDoc, about 50% of our team work with the hospitals, and they are present at hospitals either implementing our software products or working with the hospital team in terms of improving that option. So we make sure that they are taken care of even during this COVID scenario. If even if they are unable to go to the hospitals to work, we have made sure that they are taken care of in terms of their pay as well as job security. So that's one thing which we have realized, that we need to take care of the team as a whole. Um, Third thing which I mentioned just now is about doing it yourself. It's important to don the hat of the person who's actually doing the job. For example, in Delyver, it was the delivery boy as well as the call center executive for us at the first stage to understand how you're able to build the products for them. So while we were working as delivery boys, we realized that when they get an order on phone and we are driving, we will not be able to hear the orders coming in. Hence, we made sure that we are able to actually notify them with vibrations as well as different ringtones. Another thing is, when you're looking at the phone, when you're in sunlight, what you see is completely different from the way you actually see when you're sitting inside an office or in a IT park and develop an application. So we made sure that we are able to test our applications while out in the sunlight along with the delivery boy. Most of our engineers, once they develop the application, will have to go along with the rider. The same thing which we do at BestDoc also. Once we develop an application, we are making sure that the engineer goes to a particular hospital and sees how it is being used by a patient or a hospital administrator. So that is one thing which we are able to inculcate as a habit of making sure that you do it yourself, and then you are able to see how to improve your product. We are continuously learning. The amount of time we have spent on the road while running Delyver, or the number of days we have spent at hospitals while developing BestDoc, is actually the reason why we are able to move ahead better than others. So after acquisition, Delyver became Big Basket Express, and in about 7 months, I was able to build a team across 10 cities. So one good thing is that Big Basket was well capitalized. They were funded by really big VCs, and hence the acquisition helped us also to get exposure in terms of building an organization when capital is available. So the most important thing for any startup is to make sure that you're able to manage your revenues as well as cash flow. We were able to do that to a decent level in Delyver, but in 2015, when the food tech explosion happened, we were written off as a company which have been there for so many years in one city, and hence some of our competitors got much more funding than us, and hence we had to look for an acquisition. Once Big Basket happened, it was a very good learning for us in terms of working inside a company and building again an organization. That was the freedom which was given to us by the Big Basket founders, where the three co-founders of Delyver were made a part of the management team and given all the freedom to execute the new plans. Hence, we were able to also build a business from scratch to about 20 crores in years' time, 20 crores per month in a year's time. And while working at Big Basket is when I started looking at other opportunities, and then decided to do BestDoc down the line. So another point to pick up while talking about startup is about mistakes. So when you're executing something, you would definitely come across mistakes, because unless and until you try, you will not know whether it's a mistake or not. So it's important that you actually try out a lot more things faster, and hence you're able to learn faster. And one thing which we realized is unless and until you are able to do multiple iterations quickly, you will not be able to learn. So there has to be always a bias for action when you are building a startup or working in startup. If you are nimble-footed, you will be able to actually move much faster than others, even the biggies who will not take decisions and wait for some time to see whether they need to do something or not. These are some of the mistakes in Delyver, and wanted to actually put it out in the front because unless and until you are able to admit your mistakes and share it with others who are not being ready to learn from those. So in Delyver, one thing which we realized is all three of us were MBAs and we didn't have a tech co-founder, and hence we didn't have a strong tech core in terms of building the products, which actually was an disadvantages for us when we started scaling up. Second thing was we were looking at doing multiple categories. So we were doing delivery of food, flowers, cake, fish, vegetables, even dry clean, without focusing on one single category. And we could see some of our competitors picking up just one category, say restaurant food, and then scaling it really well. At the time when we were getting acquired by Big Basket, our competitor had less number of stores, but doing more orders because of their focus on a particular category. And that's one mistake which we realized that if we were given an opportunity to go back, we could have changed it and then done better. We were too early before the market was ready. That's another mistake because 2010 online ordering was not a fad. It was not even 1% of all the orders which would have happened in the uh, food delivery or grocery delivery space. But things changed by 2015, but we have been there for too many years. And that's one reason why a lot of people thought that these guys don't know how to scale it up faster. It's just that you started too early and hence you had actually a lot of friction. By the time the market was ready, there were others who could come and then execute it much faster. So this is touching upon the same point that it doesn't only mean that you need to be a first mover, you need to be a fast mover as well. And we were in Bangalore for 5 years without having opened any other cities in those 5 years because we were bootstrapped for the first 2 years. And then we raised a crore as angel fund and then expanded to a few more parts of Bangalore. And then 2 years down the line, we raised about $1.1 million and then expanded all over Bangalore with much larger team. If we had actually invested some part of that in fund into expanding into one more city, Chennai or Hyderabad, it could have been easy for us to attract VC money. So that's one mistake which we realized we were not doing right. This time in BestDoc, I'm making sure that most of these mistakes are taken care of. So I started with tech co-founder. We decided that we would focus only on hospitals and building the products for them. And we also have decided to expand. So we currently have clients across 4 states, and that's a very good validation because of which we are getting good investor interest as well. Yes, this is about product development. You need to be very fast. You should be able to move at the pace of lightning. And most of the time, what I've seen with startups, early stage startups, is that they keep building more and more features into the product, trying to make them really good, saying that this covers all zillion scenarios which our user can think of. But what happens is that there are a lot of others who would come and then pick up just one feature of that and then do it really well and scale it across the country or even across the globe. So it's important for you to actually get your products out as much as possible and then get validation and then come back and then build better features. Particularly relevant in B2C space because speed at the execution at the speed of lightning is so important in B2C domain. And hence, done is better than perfection. Rather than actually looking for perfection, move things out, ship products as much quickly as possible. This was some of the innovations which we have done in BestDoc. We started as a rural marketplace for doctor appointments by connecting patients in rural areas with hospitals in cities as well as towns. And then we moved on to build patient check-in kiosks when we realized that the major challenge for patients reaching the hospitals is that they spend a lot of time at various stations trying to get something done. So we innovated with an IoT device which would help patients fill in forms. If they are unable to do it, they can get the assistance from a hospital staff who can help them do this. And we are now able to do registrations in less than a minute, which is also Aadhaar integrated. And then we innovated with an IVR-based vernacular patient feedback, where patients would get calls in uh, any language of their preference. We currently have support in about 4 or 5 languages, because we realized that most of the software is built for people who understand English. So if you see, everything is all the screens, all the dashboards, everything is in English. So we started actually looking at how to engage with people who may not be comfortable with English. So the kiosks, if you see in the hospitals in Kerala, they'll have Malayalam screens, and you can type, or you can even read everything. All the options are available in Malayalam, and then we make sure that it's converted to English and then sent to the system. We introduced contactless payments, for which we have also applied for a patent, which is pending. This is about doing contactless payments, which is so relevant in the current COVID scenario, where hospitals or even other businesses, people are reluctant to use cards, touch payment devices, or do the payments. So we had done this work in the last year itself, and we now feel that this would actually become a good product which would be adopted across hospitals. Video consultation is a product which we were able to build very quickly in the last month, once we realized that patients as well as doctors are unable to go to hospitals because of the lockdown situation. And we have integrated it with the hospital system so that we are able to do it much better than the standalone applications. We are also rolling out face recognition. This is also a part of the extension of the contactless work, where the patients can just stand in front of the kiosk at the hospitals, and it would recognize them based on whether they are an existing user, or that they can register them and then move them, help them move forward without having to spend a lot of time filling forms and other activities. So we can collect all the data at later point. So this is another innovation which you're doing. So you have to continuously look at how we can improve the experience in your business, and that's what we have been doing by building things which would make sense and also get adoption. So we spend a lot of time at the hospitals trying to see whether people are using it, what are the various things which we need to do to improve the adoption. We consider ourselves as an health tech operations company rather than a software company, and that is the DNA which is there within the team, which is helping us innovate continuously in this space. So customer service is the most important thing in any startup. Unless until you're speaking to your customers, whether it is businesses in a B2B scenario or end customers in a B2C scenario, you will never know whether they are liking your product. If you're only looking at downloads of your product or usage or the number of payments happening, that's not a true indicator. If you spend even 10 minutes on daily basis with a few of your customers, you're able to understand that they would love, they are already loving certain features in your product, and they would love to actually co-create products with you. That's how we are able to do it with some of the best hospitals in Kerala, where they are actually helping us build products so that we don't waste our time building things and then taking it to them to ask whether we would you like this product. That way, it's very easy for us to make sure that we are spending our engineering effort and energy in things which will get used and we would be able to generate revenues. So I would like to take you through the evolution of Delivery Boy, because this is one job which I was able to see at very close length when I was working in both Delyver as well as Big Basket. This is just a traditional job which was then repackaged from say the 2010 period onwards, and then now it has become so relevant that the job has evolved. So it started just as we would have seen, just started as someone who was actually delivering milk or newspaper, and then we started seeing the pizza delivery companies like Domino's and Pizza Hut and all coming into the space. And after that, you started seeing dedicated delivery stuff being employed by businesses. But 2010 is when we realized that there are a few businesses which are trying to actually share this delivery person between multiple businesses. And we could actually get a lot more part-timers who are working in other industries, even students to come and then help us build this work pool. And then they were enabled by a smartphone so that they can get in and get out, maybe even for 1 hour work, and then earn good revenues. And this was a slide which was made 5 years back, and when I was just preparing this presentation, I picked it up, and then I realized that we were also thinking way back that it would have been relevant for drones to actually get in this space. It's still not a reality. 2020 has already happened, and particularly in this COVID scenario, when I speak to my colleagues at Big Basket, I keep hearing them that the capacity is so constrained because a lot of people have gone back to their native places and not yet come back, but the demand is 3 to 6 times than what it used to be for grocery, since it's an essential category. Um, what I believe is this particular scenario, the COVID pandemic, would actually give opportunity to a lot more innovations than a normal scenario, as it has been seen at times after all the world wars as well as the recession. I'm sure some of the new startups which would come into space would actually try to do things which would not require a lot of moving parts, like what we were doing when we were at Delyver, so that it would be easy or to imagine that drones can be used to actually deliver products directly into the balcony or the rooftop of the house without any contact. It's all about how you actually think about innovating in a particular space. I would like to end my presentation by just talking about the most valuable commodity in the earth, which is uh, available in abundance during this particular time, which is our time. And what we are now able to realize is while we are spending our days at home during this lockdown, we're able to go back to a lot of things which we would have not spend time. It's like spending time with the family, looking at things which you wanted to learn or do as a hobby, and then take up all those, dust out all those things, and then spend time with them, while also continue to work from home in this new uh, environment. What I believe is, unless and until we are clear about how to make use of our time, we will not be able to become successful. And it's about identifying our priorities. So in everyone's life, there would be certain priorities. It's not that everyone is supposed to become an entrepreneur or build a successful startup. It's about following your passion. There are a lot of opportunities in which you can actually innovate, and you could be called an entrepreneur. So I would say that don't go for the tag of being an entrepreneur or working in a startup. It's about following things which you love, and I'm sure if you're doing things right, money will always follow after that. So this is how I would like to end my presentation. I would like to actually hear questions from the audience. Thank you.
We can go ahead with the Q&A. There are a few questions here.
Sure. So there's a question on the colleges where I've done my BTech and MBA, which I've touched upon. So just to reiterate, I did my engineering in electronics and communication from Kannur Engineering College, uh, Government College of Engineering, Kannur, and the MBA was from IIM Lucknow. And that was the first time I got to actually stay outside Kerala. For the first 21 years, I've lived my life in Kerala, and it has been a very good experience going to a place where I could work as well as study with people from all over the country. Uh, please explain the incubation process of Technopark. So I think that's a question which would be relevant for the KSU, or shall I just mention about my experience? Uh, Adarsh Kumar CA has asked this question. Uh, so if Adarsh can clarify that question, I would be able to touch upon that. Shall I move to the next question otherwise?
Yeah, please,
Yeah.
please move.
So Shibbu has asked this question: how are the rules and regulation for health management startups in India? Is there any restriction? So as of now, there are a few regulatory aspects when it comes to doing a startup in the healthcare space, particularly related to the data. So there is a new act which is being tabled. It is yet to be approved, called DISHA, which is Digital Information Security in Healthcare Act. And there is also an national health care NHTA, which is a new body which has been formed to identify certain aspects of how to take care of the privacy as well as the data related aspects in healthcare. So it is much more easier to do a healthcare startup in India because of relatively easier regulatory aspects compared to doing it in US or Europe, where there are much more stringent regulatory requirements. However, it is important for you to make sure that you're working in a very sensitive field and then hence take care of data as well as privacy in very serious way. The next question is Shiv Prasad asking, what are the strategies you adopted to recover from your failure? So with respect to Delyver, it was a retrospective. So we realized that we had failed in certain aspects only when we were not able to raise funds in 2014-15, and then we started looking for companies to acquire us. Um, and I have tried to cover some of these failures by making sure that I identify the right people as well as the strategies for expanding when it comes to BestDoc. So the first 1 year we stayed in Kerala and wanted to build very good product and then get hospitals to adopt our product. And then we started expanding outside Kerala. So we were able to get clients in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra. So we didn't want to stay. So we realized that we should move fast and then scale. So we also looked at Middle East pre-COVID, where we had got very good interest from some of the large hospital groups in that region. So it's about making our product global. That was one mistake or failure which we had in our first product. Next question is from Pranav. It's Pranav DV1. How to get knowledge on whether market is ready for your idea or not? You have to first build an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, which doesn't require a lot of cost. And you should have a good tech team which should be able to iterate that. So it can be only a couple of engineers who would help you in building that. If one of the co-founder is an engineer, that would be an easier way to get that done. Get the first 10 customers to use your product if it is a B2B product, or 100 customers in the B2C space. Don't define a pricing which would actually deter them from trying your product. Pricing can be identified later, so it's important to get validation on whether the product, people are ready to use the product, and then the next question is whether they are ready to pay for it. If you're doing something but people are not ready to pay for it, that may not be a great idea unless until you're looking at making money through advertisements or other sources. The next question is from Rebecca. How did you know when you had the right idea? That's when you would have moved from the first customer to 10 and then 100th one. If you're not able to get the product right, definitely people would start giving you a negative feedback if it's B2C, or if it is B2B, they would stop using a product. So stickiness is very important when it comes to actually building a great product, and churn also is corollary. Next question is while at Big Basket, I was focusing on building the Big Basket Express business for the first 7 months, because Big Basket used to deliver only using vans, and we were entrusted with the responsibility of doing it on bikes across 10 cities So I had to hire a large team of about 2,000 plus people, and hence I was um, working hard on building that. And after the first year is when I got a time to relax, because it's a large company, and hence most of the support systems are in place, so you don't have to worry about things breaking and then the founder getting into fixing those things. So it was that time when I started looking at various other sectors, and I come from a family of doctors, and so is my wife. She is also a co-founder with BestDoc. So we were able to actually speak to some of the doctors in our family, including our parents, and hence we were able to identify that that's a good opportunity to use technology to improve healthcare. And that's how BestDoc happened. Do you operate with in-house infrastructure and integrate with IT assets of the hospital? So we do both. We integrate, most of the hospitals have a software which is called HIS, Hospital Information System. So we integrate with their hospital system so that we are able to give a seamless experience. In certain hospitals, we can provide our own applications without having to worry about integrating with the. So currently we work with about 80 hospitals across Kerala, some of the ones which are really big names. And that's also helping us improve our product domain knowledge. What's your strategy to reach customers, sales calls, pitches, or expos? So in case of B2C, when we were doing Delyver, we had to try a lot of below the line marketing, which means that you would be directly reaching your customers. And we used to do flyers. We used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then go with the newspaper guys to make sure that our flyers are inserted into the newspapers, and then they are distributed in the localities where we were operating. Then we moved into out of home marketing, and then digital, where Facebook and Google ads were getting us a lot of customers. In the B2B space, in current one business, it's mostly direct meetings with the decision makers at the hospitals, and then followed by expos, which are relevant for, again, healthcare sector. What's your opinion on the advice, fail first, learn, catch up to new startup aspirants? Okay. Yes, it's important to actually fail fast, but we need to make sure that we are able to sit down and analyze about those failures, and then make sure we don't repeat those mistakes in the next one. Could be that even simple things like co-founder chemistry not working out could be the reason why a startup would have failed. So it's very important to understand all the aspects of why a failure happened, and then make sure we don't repeat them in the next one. And uh, uh, it's not, even though people think that it's fashionable to become an entrepreneur, or the ultimate objective of any business is to generate profits, decent profits, not obscene. And hence it should be important that you're able to look at that to take care of the cash flow of the business. Unless until you're able to generate revenues, or where startups are looking at downsizing people, be a lot of emotional turmoil associated with working in startups or building startups. So it's important to be ready for that state of mind, and then make sure that you are getting into startups. It's a tough world, but it's also equally rewarding if you're able to actually build a sustainable business. The final question is from, okay, I can see a few more questions. This is Pranav Kumar from Rajkot, Gujarat. Please suggest on equity, profit distribution, or co-founders. So it depends on one, the skill sets which the co-founders are bringing to the table, and the second one, the money which they are ready to pull in. Uh, Money need not be a determinant. If one of the co-founder is unable to bring in equal amount of money at the time of starting up, it's also important to look at what that co-founder will be able to do in terms of skill sets. Uh, um, it is okay to have equal or different percentage of share depending on how it is being discussed with the co-founders. And as more and more new rounds of funding happen, the co-founders would get diluted, and it's important that the promoter group actually looks at retaining majority, because once you have lost the majority, it becomes very tough to actually get your investors to be convinced on your business plan and the way forward. So it's also important to make sure that you don't get diluted too early in the early stages. As you said, a team is so important. Can you speak about your co-founders in Delyver as well as BestDoc? So I've touched upon this. How do you build that team? The first one, Delyver, we studied together and then we were in touch. Good thing was all of us were Keralites. So we used to catch up regularly at um, our friends' weddings or whenever we are in Kerala. So that was one good thing. We had that common thread going in Delyver. We are still in touch for the last 15 plus years, and that's a very good thing about. So you should be able to build a friendship out of your co-founders. BestDoc, I met the co-founder again through a family connection. Uh, my co-founder Fayez was running a healthcare services company in Trivandrum and then in Cochin. And when I was looking for a person who could build a tech stack, he was the right person who would be able to help us do that in Kerala. And after that, the entire tech team was brought in by him, while I looked at bringing the business and the execution team. So it's important to actually divide your responsibilities and make sure this space who would like to come and work with us in building some of these products.
Yeah. Hi, Afsal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Nafik from Kerala Academicians. I think almost you covered all questions. I think we can wind up. Thank you, Afsal, for this wonderful session. You covered the your entrepreneurial journey from 2010 to till now. The first startup, then the acquisition story, then you started again, the second startup. I think this is a very informative session. Even learns from it. April 28th. Tomorrow we plan to conduct another session at 5 o'clock. That's community engagement and tech learning session in campuses. Tomorrow, Meher from Thinker Hub will talk about that. Those who are interested to attend that session, you can register through our website. So see you tomorrow. Thank you, Afsal.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, KSM, for this opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe
Bye.
and take care. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Goodbye.